why I'm going to jail, if I tell y'all one more time why I'm going to jail, I did fucking fraud.
Can't you understand? If you fuck with me, I'll take your man. Yes, I took somebody man. I took somebody man in high school. This girl man, I took her man. It wasn't no purpose. It was just like I started talking to him. I didn't know that was her man. Then he became my man, and I was like.
Now an arrest has been made in the death of a transgender woman in Lauderdale Lakes.
And Local 10's Brett Neese is live in Fort Lauderdale with what we're learning about the suspect tonight. Brett.
And Calvin and Nicole, we're learning a lot of new details here at the 9 o'clock hour. Friends of this victim tell me that she and the suspect have been in a relationship for a couple of years, but they had a history of fighting and arguing. These same friends also tell me that they turned in what will likely be a key piece of evidence to investigators. It's video from a Tesla door camera that shows the final argument between the two and the shooting.
At around 7 p.m. on a November evening in Lauderdale Lakes, Florida, a medical call drew deputies to a parked car. Inside, they found a young woman bleeding in the front passenger seat. That woman was Maurice Harrison, a 21-year-old TikTok influencer known for her colorful wigs, bold personality, and nearly 300,000 strong following. Her boyfriend, Shanoid White Jr., stood nearby, a gun at the scene. According to investigators, what began as a verbal argument inside the vehicle turned physical, and at some point she was shot. Authorities arrested White without bond, charging him with first-degree murder. Surveillance footage, 911 audio, and social media posts are now under scrutiny. Her death has sparked fierce conversations about domestic violence, the dangers of intimacy, and the vulnerability of those living in the spotlight. Stay with us as we unravel this shocking story and uncover the heartbreaking details of what led to this senseless loss. Before we begin, let us know in the comments, where are you watching from, and what are your thoughts as the story unfolds? Welcome to True Crime Tales, where we reveal the crimes that shock communities and the secrets hidden behind closed doors. These are real people, real events, real consequences. Hit subscribe and turn on notifications. You won't want to miss what's coming next. Now, let's begin. Maurice Harrison, publicly known as Lala, was born September 25, 2004, in Pompano Beach, Florida. Assigned male at birth, Harrison lived openly as a transgender woman during her teenage years. She developed a public identity rooted in self-expression and aesthetics, primarily through hairstyling and wig transformations. While her legal identity remained Maurice Harrison, her social persona, Lala, became the name widely recognized across digital platforms. She grew her following by posting wig transformation tutorials, cosmetic enhancement routines, and comedic reactions. With approximately 235,000 to 300,000 followers on TikTok alone, her influence expanded rapidly through consistent viral content. Her videos often demonstrated step-by-step processes involving extensions, braided installations, artificial lace front wigs, and color customization, ultimately positioning her as a trusted figure among viewers interested in hairstyling trends and creative beauty applications. Her brand consistently emphasized boldness, feminine styling, leverage of wigs as symbols of transformation, and self-directed confidence. Using wigs and cosmetics, she demonstrated alternative methods of presenting gender, which attracted a growing audience within the Black and LGBTQ+ community. She was publicly identified as a beauty innovator among transgender influencers and contributed to expanding social media discourse on self-image and personal freedom. In contrast to the empowered persona exhibited online, close associates who interacted with her privately reported quieter, emotional behavior. They noticed periodic fluctuations in mood, believed by some to be influenced by personal relationship conflicts. Although she rarely discussed private issues publicly, archived content and older videos showed an unexplained facial injury at an earlier time, which she never addressed. Harrison faced several personal challenges, including stigma from external parties regarding gender identity and internal pressure to sustain an engaging online presence. As an influencer, the necessity to maintain aesthetic consistency, update beauty products, and continue content production reportedly generated financial stress. This public momentum often obscured underlying vulnerability, especially relating to emotionally dependent relationship patterns. Relying heavily on the partner for emotional grounding increased exposure to instability. Those aware of her private life believe that relationship dynamics contributed to emotional uncertainty, although no confirmed counseling, reporting, or documentation has surfaced to support intervention efforts. Harrison maintained a multi-year romantic relationship with Shanoid White Jr. The exact start date remains unofficial, but is believed to span several years, with intermittent periods of separation and reconciliation. White occasionally appeared in her videos, though involvement was limited and only represented during stable phases. Reports from private acquaintances indicate multiple arguments occurred throughout the duration of their relationship, often leading to temporary breakups. These conflicts reportedly stem from jealousy, control-based disputes, and emotional disagreements. Individuals familiar with the couple suggested signs of toxic behavior, including possessiveness and unresolved disputes that escalated verbally. Although no official reports document physical altercations, it was speculated that physical aggression may have occurred previously but remained unreported out of fear of public exposure or emotional dependence. No previously filed police reports or domestic violence complaints have been found at this stage. The victim appeared to maintain emotional reliance on White, seeking support despite volatile interactions. Their relationship, based on observations, followed a repeating pattern: conflict, brief separation, resolution, and return to familiar dynamics. This contributed to a lack of stability and concealed the severity of underlying issues from the public. While her online persona projected confidence and comedic resilience, it is believed that this presentation strategically masked private struggles. No professional intervention, legal mediation, or protective measures were implemented by state or private institutions prior to the incident. Sources indicate that the day of the incident involved a disagreement between Harrison and White. Specific time markers have not yet been publicly confirmed, but it is believed that the dispute began earlier in the day in an indoor setting. The disagreement reportedly involved repetitive arguing related to physical contact, specifically an accusation surrounding hair pulling. As evening progressed, the argument reportedly intensified inside a vehicle. Based on preliminary investigative statements, raised voices were heard by individuals in the surrounding area where the vehicle was parked. There is no confirmation of recorded messages exchanged during this period, but investigators are in possession of digital devices and are conducting review of communication logs. It is currently understood that the confrontation escalated rapidly. During the argument, the subject of physical interaction allegedly resurfaced, leading to further tension. No witnesses directly observed the moment of firearm discharge. Emergency services were contacted once Harrison was found wounded with gunshot injuries in the vehicle. She was transported to a medical facility in critical condition. Despite resuscitative efforts, she was declared deceased as a result of sustained injuries.
A chilling new video capturing the moments after a TikTok influencer was shot and killed.
The victim's boyfriend, a former college football player, now charged in her murder. Local 10 Sanella Sabovic live in Fort Lauderdale with the latest on this tragedy. Sanella.
Former college football player, now inmate here at the Broward County Main Jail, charged with first-degree murder, accused of killing his girlfriend. And those that knew the couple tell me that they had a tumultuous relationship. New video shows the moments immediately after a transgender TikTok influencer was shot Friday night. Deputies say at the hands of her boyfriend, 25-year-old Shanoid White Jr. Video from a Tesla captures who appears to be White getting out of the driver's side of a beige sedan along the 3300 block of Northwest 37th Street. The passenger door opens where we're told by relatives the victim, 21-year-old Maurice Harrison, known as Girl La La La, tries to get out. White is seen grabbing her by the hair and putting her back inside before pacing with a cell phone. According to an arrest form, he then calls for help. Broward Sheriff's Office investigators say the pair had been in a relationship for several years. They had a verbal argument in the car Friday that turned physical. Then she was shot. Girl La 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 was taken to Broward Health Medical Center where she died. A neighbor who didn't want to show his face on camera describes what his family heard and saw.
My wife heard a gunshot around 6:50. This whole area was blocked off. Police were on scene. A lot of police were on scene.
I'm real Girl La La La.
She was known for her wigs and social media presence, with nearly 300,000 followers on TikTok and more than 40,000 on Instagram.
Why?
Behind the scenes, friends and relatives say Girl La 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 and White had a tumultuous relationship.
What we leaving for?
White, who played football at Bethune-Cookman during his freshman year, was arrested once before for domestic violence in November of 2022. It's unclear if it's the same victim. The arrest form states he physically and maliciously battered the victim multiple times. Girl La La La's family is too devastated to talk on camera. They do tell Local 10 in statements, "As a family, we appreciate every prayer, kind thought, and gesture during our time of bereavement. Now we are just praying that justice is served to the fullest degree." And sadly, the victim's family has faced tragedy and heartache before. Last August, Girl La La La's brother, Maurice Harrison, was shot and killed. As far as White is concerned, again, he is facing a first-degree murder charge. He did appear in bond court over the weekend where he was denied bond. That is the latest. Reporting live out of Fort Lauderdale, Sinella Sabovic, Local 10 News.
The firearm used in the shooting has not yet been detailed in publicly available sources regarding registration, ownership, or ballistic evidence. Investigators are conducting forensic analysis to determine shot trajectory, firing distance, and potential signs of struggle preceding the incident. The incident unfolded inside the front passenger area of a vehicle parked near Lauderdale Lakes, Florida. According to investigative details, the confrontation began as a verbal disagreement between the victim, social media influencer Maurice Harrison, and her boyfriend, identified as White. The argument reportedly escalated in close quarters, confined to the passenger seat area, where emotional tension transitioned into physical interaction. Witness statements and surveillance analysis indicate that this interaction intensified rapidly, with indications of hair pulling and physical restraint preceding the firearm discharge. During the struggle, 2 9mm shell casings were later recovered from inside the vehicle. Forensic mapping suggests that at least one of the shots was fired at close range, likely from within arm's reach. Trajectory reports indicate the fatal round struck the victim in the chest area, causing immediate loss of responsiveness. Blood saturation patterns on the passenger seat supported theories of a close-range impact rather than external discharge. Investigators noted that no physical defensive weapon was identified on or near the victim, implying a one-sided physical dynamic. Following the shooting, White made the 911 call. In the call, he admitted to having shot the victim, but expressed panic rather than clarity. Dispatch documents indicate difficulty with relaying the exact location to emergency responders, leading to potential delay. His statement suggested that the firearm discharged unintentionally during the struggle, asserting no prior intent to kill. The tone of the call, while not emotionally assessed here, indicated urgency without structured detail. Law enforcement arrived shortly after receiving the emergency notification. Upon discovery inside the vehicle, the victim was found non-responsive, displaying visible chest trauma. Officers initiated an immediate medical response, and paramedics transported her to Broward Health Medical Center. She was pronounced deceased shortly after arrival due to complications related to the gunshot wound. Inside the vehicle, forensic teams identified significant blood saturation concentrated on the front passenger seat, consistent with the location where the victim was positioned at the time of the shooting. Additionally, blood trace was observed outside the passenger door, suggesting partial body movement or attempted extraction post-incident. Combined evidence pointed to possible efforts to reposition or assist the victim following the discharge. The firearm was discovered holstered behind the front seat, raising questions surrounding the procedural sequence of weapon handling. Analysts determined that the firearm was likely drawn from its holster moments before the interaction escalated. The absence of a visible defensive weapon near the victim reinforced investigative theories that she was not physically armed or posing lethal threat upon discharge. A crucial component in the crime analysis was surveillance footage obtained from a Tesla-mounted camera in proximity to the incident location. The footage captured White exiting the vehicle with a firearm visibly in hand. Approximately seconds prior, the victim appeared to partially exit the passenger door, but White's body movement suggested a forceful action returning her inside. That moment became central to discussions regarding intent, control dynamics, and potential premeditation. The timing of the footage, capturing sequence before firearm return to holster, became a pivotal point in reconstructing the final moments leading to the gunfire. Ballistics reports, if released publicly, would further clarify projectile origin and precise discharge direction. Initial autopsy findings indicated entry trajectory consistent with straight-on frontal shot at close distance. Toxicology evaluations were submitted for both individuals to determine external influencing substances. Toxicology results at the time of writing were either pending or not disclosed. White was detained at the scene without documented resistance. Officers secured him, read charges, and transported him to holding pending further evaluation. He was booked without bond due to the severity of evidence and firearm involvement. The official charge recorded was first-degree murder with a firearm, aligning with the presence of weapon, close-range discharge, and forensic evidence suggesting active engagement during the conflict. The severity of the charge reflected the prosecution's intent to prove an element of intent or, at minimum, reckless disregard for human life during the escalation. During initial interrogation, White maintained that the firearm discharged accidentally during struggle. He stated that the victim allegedly pulled his hair, triggering what he described as a defensive physical reaction. He claimed there was no deliberate attempt to fire the weapon, and that panic followed immediately after hearing the discharge. Law enforcement documented these statements, but categorized them as self-defense assertion rather than confirmed factual occurrence. Prosecution strategy centered around demonstrating that White either intended to fire or consciously engage in reckless actions under emotionally charged circumstances. They aimed to establish whether relational aggressiveness existed prior to the shooting and whether this pattern could demonstrate possible escalation trend. Evidence would be used to argue that withdrawing a firearm during dispute already implies elevated danger acceptance. Defense strategy, based on initial statements, appeared focused on advocating an accidental discharge narrative. They were expected to argue no evidence of premeditation and possible emotional instability at the moment of the incident. Self-defense may be introduced if evidence could support a perceived threat or physical assault from the victim, though absence of a weapon weakens this position. Further legal developments would likely include presentation of digital communication before the incident, prior domestic disputes, potential witness testimonies, social media forensic analysis, and expert witness input on firearm discharge mechanics. Court proceedings would consider surveillance footage timing to determine whether the weapon was drawn in anticipation or reaction. The prosecution may push for enhancement based on firearm involvement in confined space, which statistically increases probability of fatal consequence. The outcome will rest on the court's assessment of complex interactions moments before gunshot, physical dominance indicators, and whether forensic mapping disputes or supports accidental discharge claims. As of current case progression, incarceration remains active under non-bondable status pending trial. News of the fatal shooting spread rapidly across major social media platforms, beginning with local reports from Broward County, and immediately amplified due to the victim's large follower base. Within hours, hashtags containing her influencer names surfaced across TikTok, Instagram, and X, initiating viral circulation. Followers, many of whom had interacted with her content daily, reacted with confusion and disbelief. Comments flooded past videos with demands for answers and call for justice, particularly due to the sudden transition from daily hairstyling content to reports of a homicide case. The initial report by regional outlets was quickly converted into trending posts across entertainment and true crime platforms. Users began stitching her previous content with recent developments, rapidly increasing views. Local journalists and digital news sources uploaded short clips referencing the shooting in Lauderdale Lakes involving the 21-year-old influencer. Online discussion groups and true crime communities pulled available public data, dissecting timelines and public appearances leading up to the incident. Content creators within the beauty, lifestyle, and LGBTQ+ spaces issued statements acknowledging the news. Many referenced a lack of visibility of real-life dangers experienced by online personalities, especially those operating within sensitive identity categories. Reaction videos reached high engagement levels, with creators reviewing the implications of domestic violence and its crossover into the influencer realm. Shortly after the announcement, online users began rewatching videos formerly published by the victim. Several circulated clips highlighted what appeared to be faint bruising or subtle injury marks. Slow-motion edits and freeze-frame dissections fueled claims that signs of previous abuse had possibly been overlooked. Commentary threads linked visible stress or sudden behavior changes in certain uploads to assumed emotional strain. These were not verifiable without medical confirmation, but gained traction as examples of unnoticed warning signals. Social media investigators compiled side-by-side comparisons of older and recent content. Some aligned discrepancies in tone, physical appearance, and energy with a possible escalation of domestic tension. True crime advocates cited this observation pattern as common in abusive relationships, where victims conceal their situation while maintaining a public persona. Multiple discussions reference how trauma can sometimes appear subtly through facial expressions, body language, and content scheduling irregularities. A GoFundMe page was initiated by close family members shortly after public confirmation of death. The initial funding target was surpassed within hours, mainly driven by followers, extended influencer networks, and concerned citizens. Donations included contributions from individuals outside regular audience categories, expanding reach to advocacy groups and local businesses. Campaign description emphasized funeral costs, legal support, and awareness promotion. Regular funding updates reflected rapid milestone achievements. Notably, JT of City Girls publicly acknowledged the loss, donating to the funding campaign, and addressing the broader issue of violence toward transgender women. Her post referenced systemic gaps in protection and called for community-level awareness and intervention strategies. Additional public figures reposted or extended condolences, aligning the incident with ongoing movements against intimate partner violence. Following celebrity involvement, conversations shifted from individual tragedy to broader systemic concerns. Online forums, LGBTQ+ health organizations, and advocacy pages discuss the statistically heightened vulnerability faced by transgender individuals, particularly in intimate relationships. Posts reference existing data regarding fear of reporting due to discrimination, institutional mistrust, and exposure risks. The case raised questions concerning the psychological weight carried by individuals who operate under constant public scrutiny. Analysts highlighted that maintaining an idealized image may discourage public acknowledgement of personal distress. Several threads linked the pressure for consistent content creation to emotional exhaustion, impacting the ability to seek help or admit instability. Observers re-examined the contrast between online glamorization of success and potential behind-the-scenes emotional struggles. Discussions pointed to the conflict between preserving brand identity and revealing personal issues, often resulting in suppression of domestic conflict. This dichotomy became a central point in commentary concerning influencer mental health. Psychological studies referenced by mental health advocates describe the pressure influencers experience in sustaining audience engagement. Fear of revenue decline or reputation damage may reinforce compliance behavior within harmful relationships. This pressure may contribute to dependency on controlling partners who influence financial or emotional stability. Data cited by gender advocacy organizations indicated that transgender women are statistically at higher risk of being subjected to violence. Personal safety concerns, lack of adequate protection structures, and historical marginalization contribute to amplified exposure. The case reignited conversations about insufficient legal, medical, and social support for transgender individuals facing domestic abuse. Legal analysts pointed out deficiencies in services specifically tailored for transgender domestic violence victims. Emergency support systems often lack policy-based training and identity-sensitive protocols. Advocacy pages used the case to highlight the need for specialized assistance frameworks. Speculative analysis suggested that previous incidents may have gone unreported due to fear of public exposure or doubt in receiving unbiased protection. Influencers sometimes avoid seeking legal help to prevent media attention or jeopardizing brand affiliations. This may further reinforce dependency dynamics. Within trans communities, seeking support often requires disclosing personal identity details to institutions, which may discourage reporting. Commentary referenced fear of misgendering, harassment, or institutional neglect as potential deterrents. Several advocacy commentators referenced the emotional burden surrounding abuse reporting, particularly regarding trust in law enforcement response. Influencers may fear that allegations could be dismissed or inadequately processed due to bias or lack of sensitivity training. Psychological assessments shared online propose emotional manipulation elements contributing to relationship power imbalances. Financial dependence, emotional attachment, and social isolation were noted as compounding factors. Comments underscored how fame does not eliminate vulnerability, but may instead deepen isolation due to lack of genuine support networks. Economic influence from one partner may limit independence or decision-making power. Dependency on shared resources or income overlap can intensify reluctance to exit a dangerous relationship. True crime analysts highlighted that public visibility can paradoxically diminish personal support. Influencers may engage primarily with digital audiences instead of real-life networks, reducing potential intervention opportunities. Continuous brand representation often replaces vulnerable interactions. The investigation into the death of 21-year-old TikTok influencer Maurice Harrison, known online as Girlalala, remains active and far from resolved. Authorities continue digging into critical aspects of the case to determine the exact circumstances surrounding the shooting. Harrison was reportedly shot in the front seat of a vehicle in Lauderdale Lakes, Florida, allegedly by her boyfriend. She was transported to a hospital and later pronounced dead. Investigators are piecing together the timeline, exploring digital communications, eyewitness accounts, and patterns of behavior to identify motive, establish intent, and uncover whether prior intervention opportunities were missed. Investigators immediately seize the victim's smartphone, laptop, and associated digital accounts. Each device undergoes a comprehensive forensic examination to extract communication logs, call history, deleted messages, cloud-stored images, and application data. Authorities aim to map out conversations between the victim and the suspect over the previous weeks and months. They search for arguments, threats, expressions of fear, apologies, or escalations in tone. Analysts focus particularly on the hours leading up to the shooting. There is interest in whether any final communication indicated distress, attempts to leave the relationship, or mentions of physical confrontation. Deleted conversations are recovered using forensic tools to ensure no relevant messages are overlooked. Harrison's last communications with friends are under review, including DMs related to personal struggles, relationship concerns, or indications of feeling unsafe. Police interview individuals that she frequently engaged with online and offline, friends, collaborators, wig clients, and supporters. They review voice notes, screen recordings, and shared media to identify signs of escalating tension or possible plans to leave the relationship. Investigators analyze whether she sought help or expressed fear in private. There is scrutiny over the moments before and after the shooting. If it occurred in a parked car or public location, investigators determine whether anyone was present, heard conversation, or saw physical interaction. Individuals nearby at the time are interviewed to confirm whether they observed aggressive verbal exchange or signs of distress. Law enforcement tracks down individuals captured in surveillance around the area before the gunshot. Several residents reported hearing gunfire, contributing valuable insight into the possible number of shots fired. Reports vary from one to multiple rounds. This discrepancy influences theories regarding struggle versus a targeted, intentional act. Investigators compare public testimony to ballistics evidence recovered from the scene and from the vehicle. Shell casings examined reflect the number of rounds discharged. The direction of bullet trajectories and wound patterns are critical in establishing whether there was movement or an attempt to defend. Authorities study available surveillance footage from nearby residential cameras, commercial properties, and traffic cameras. Enhanced frame-by-frame analysis seeks to determine whether there was visible altercation or signs of physical struggle immediately before the weapon discharge. They look for startled movements, impact gestures, or attempts to flee. Audio enhancement, if available, aims to restore faint sound patterns that might indicate raised voices, pleas, or aggressive tones. The suspect's body language post-incident is also reviewed. Whether he made any immediate rescue attempts, displayed panic, or attempted contact with emergency services all play into understanding the mind state at the time of the event. Investigators examine the suspect's psychological background and behavioral records. This includes mental health evaluations, history of emotional instability, or behavioral patterns flagged by relatives or associates. They explore potential factors such as attachment insecurity, obsession over the victim's public status, jealousy related to online fame, or patterns of aggression behind closed doors. Records from school, counseling sessions, juvenile reports, or prior community intervention programs are examined for indications of violent tendencies. Authorities consider whether digital projections, status comparisons, or pressures encountered by the suspect due to the victim's rising platform may have contributed to relational instability. Authorities review law enforcement databases and municipal court records to determine whether previous altercations between the suspect and victim were reported. They investigate if neighbors ever made noise complaints or if friends were informed about potential abuse. Social media content is explored for subtle signs of distress or dependency, including comments that seem dismissive but may now hold deeper significance. Police consult local shelters, advocacy services, and crisis hotline organizations to see whether the victim ever sought advice or help anonymously. Surveillance patterns of the suspect near the victim's home or places she visited often are also registered as potential red flags. Following the influencer's death, local communities mobilize to raise awareness around domestic violence. Her case becomes a focal point in discussions around relationship safety in youth communities, especially those in creative industries. Advocacy efforts push for stricter early intervention programs, increased psychological support in dating relationships, and wider education around signals of controlling behavior. Organizations representing digital creators launch campaigns addressing increasing reports of aggressive or manipulative conduct from partners toward influencers. Calls are made for improved self-protection training for individuals that gain rapid online attention without adequate security guidance. Members of local government and domestic violence organizations argue for reforms targeting early detection and response mechanisms. Proposals include mandatory psychological evaluation and domestic violence risk assessment when digital evidence shows consistent patterns of escalation. Policies are introduced calling for structured response when concerning relational messages appear in digital forensic review following domestic altercations. The case sparks conversations on how intimate partner violence, IPV, disproportionately affects individuals in public spaces, particularly those from underrepresented or marginalized groups whose vulnerability is amplified by both offline challenges and online exposure. Harrison's case brings attention to IPV involving youth, creators, and members of communities that historically receive reduced protection or intervention. Discussions focus on the layered complexities involving public identity, personal relationships, and online persona management. Community leaders emphasize better support structures for influencers who may feel pressure to project normalcy due to follower expectations. Workshops around IPV prevention begin incorporating case analysis centered on individuals with sudden online visibility. Advocates push for inclusive measures sensitive to cultural challenges and identity-related barriers to reaching out for help. Debate grows around whether influencer platforms should be responsible for identifying concerning patterns of communication or behavior. Observers question whether profiling followers or being attentive to unusual changes in content tone could serve as early warning indicators. Critics argue platforms are not equipped to detect real-time risk based solely on content, while supporters push for enhanced flagging tools that alert creators when patterns of harassment, intimidation, or manipulation appear. There are calls to explore anonymous counseling partnerships directly linked to platform accounts for influencers active in emotionally taxing niches. This segment poses questions about proactive monitoring. Some suggest algorithms could identify potentially alarming phrases across private messages and generate advisory prompts. Others oppose multimodal oversight due to privacy concerns and potential overreach. Ethical discussions weigh individual rights against prevention of violent outcomes. Industry stakeholders discuss boundaries between personal relationship monitoring and professional platform supervision. They question if third-party intervention would be appropriate when signs of unhealthy relationship dynamics become apparent through sudden shifts in online behavior. The debate includes whether platforms should facilitate access to IPV resources directly. Though the case remains open, Harrison's platform influence promotes discussion on safety for digital creators. Advocacy groups begin linking her name to campaigns centered on interpersonal boundary awareness and partner vetting protocols. Some creators incorporate safety warnings in live streams, encouraging followers to identify red flags in personal relationships regardless of public image. Her influence in wig design and creative styling receives recognition as part of her enduring public identity. Her work empowered young individuals in self-expression and identity presentation. Community collectives hold workshops and memorial style sessions in her memory, focusing on creativity as a tool for confidence and personal representation. Her social media platforms remain active as digital memorials. Followers continue visiting her profiles to express condolences and share experiences with domestic violence. Archival of her content is maintained across major platforms, with segments used in awareness campaigns. Memorial hashtags circulate to maintain visibility around the risks faced by rising public personas in private spaces. Maurice Harrison, a growing online personality known for her work in creative styling and wig craftsmanship, died after being shot in a vehicle, allegedly by her boyfriend. Her death sparked active legal investigation and widespread questioning around relational health in the digital sphere. Law enforcement continue analyzing digital records, witness reports, and psychological profiles to clarify intent and determine accountability. Her story transitioned from social influence to subject of true crime scrutiny, highlighting how public projection can coexist with private struggle. The incident emphasizes the investigative necessity of looking beyond online presentation to uncover dynamics veiled from public view. Authorities proceed with forensic analysis, court preparation, and upcoming hearings. Final rulings await completion of the investigation and legal proceedings. Observers await resolution with focus remaining on forensic accuracy and justice. The case progresses through the judicial system. Evidence collection continues, and legal proceedings are underway. Potential upcoming hearings will address determining motive, assessing premeditation, and evaluating digital forensic findings. The story reinforces the significance of recognizing signs of domestic violence and understanding the risks associated with visibility in digital platforms. Advocacy groups emphasize that public success does not eliminate private vulnerability. They stress the importance of personal safety measures and community intervention. The circumstances surrounding this incident shed light on the ongoing need for strengthened support mechanisms for individuals facing relationship harm. Continuous education and proactive intervention strategies take priority. Harrison's case brings forward the complexities experienced by individuals whose identity makes them more susceptible to violence and less likely to receive timely support. Awareness programs reinforce strategies for ensuring protection and legal access. Digital prominence can offer opportunity, but may also expose individuals to hidden threats. Her case serves as a stark reminder that visibility, while empowering, demands strong internal boundaries and external safeguards. She built her life online, sharing tutorials, styling transformations, and captivating audiences who admire the confidence she projected across millions of screens. But behind the digital spotlight, a private struggle will unfold inside the confined space of a car, leading to one of the most alarming incidents involving a rising social media figure. Late one night in Florida, authorities responded to reports of gunfire. A young influencer was found critically wounded in the front seat. She was rushed to the hospital but did not survive. Investigators now piece together what preceded the final moments, reviewing digital messages, unspoken tensions, and unseen warning signs. As the probe intensifies, new questions emerge about influence, visibility, and danger hidden in plain sight. What began as a journey of creativity ended in tragedy, leaving behind unanswered questions and a case still unfolding. If you found this story as gripping and heartbreaking as we did, don't forget to like this video and share it with others. And if you want to hear more true crime stories that uncover the mysteries behind these tragic events, make sure to subscribe to our channel and turn on the notification bell. You won't want to miss our latest stories, updates, and discussions.